The modern world has witnessed the rise of widespread adult visual content. What was thought a thing too obscure to display as nudity on social media has become part of everyday culture. But how did the concepts of sexuality and nudity evolve so as to completely reshape the modern viewpoint of the notion? It all begins with the dark and disturbing history of a famous magazine, Playboy, and the brain behind the concept, Hugh Hefner. The Playboy, American magazine which was aimed at men, the first to present female nudity and sexually oriented material in a relatively sophisticated format, eventually reshaped the concept of modern sexuality and bred a dark past. For the magazine's first issue in 1953, its founder, Hugh Hefner, used a previously unpublished nude calendar photograph of Marilyn Monroe, who also appeared on the cover. The logo of Playboy's parent company, Playboy Enterprises, Inc., depicting the head of a rabbit in a tuxedo bow tie, eventually became one of the most recognized trademarks in the world. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications in order to get notified on our future uploads. In today's video, we are looking at Playboy's dark and disturbing history, the rise and fall of Hugh Hefner. The whole concept of Playboy is centered on American men's lifestyle and entertainment. It was a magazine, formerly in print and currently online, founded in Chicago in 1953 by Hugh Hefner and his associates, funded in part by a $1,000 loan from Hefner's mother. The major feature of the Playboy brand is its centerfolds of nude and semi-nude models, otherwise known as playmates. The Playboy magazine undoubtedly played an important role in the sexual revolution and remains one of the world's best-known brands, having grown into Playboy Enterprises, Inc., with a presence in nearly every medium. In addition to the flagship magazine in the United States, special nation-specific versions of Playboy are published worldwide, including those by licensees, such as Dirk Steenkamp's DHS Media Group. Playboy features monthly interviews of public figures, such as artists, architects, economists, composers, conductors, film directors, journalists, novelists, playwrights, religious figures, politicians, athletes, and race car drivers. The magazine generally reflects a liberal editorial stance, although it often interviews conservative celebrities. After a year-long removal of most nude photos in Playboy magazine, the March-April 2017 issue brought back nudity. Playboy revolves around the genius of one Hugh Marston Hefner, who was born in 1926 and died 91 years later. The man was a demigod. Hefner was founder and editor-in-chief of Playboy magazine, fueling media interest. He was an advocate for the causes of First Amendment rights, animal rescue, and the restoration of the Hollywood sign. He was a highly controversial figure in popular culture, accused of perpetrating and fostering sexual abuse and exploitation stretching back decades, and Playboy has since distanced itself from association with him. That is quite a sad fact, given he had put so much of work for the brand, but there is no denying that enshrouding the memories of Playboy is a dark past at the center of which is Hugh Hefner. By spring 1953, Hugh Hefner, a psychology graduate who had worked in Chicago for Esquire magazine writing promotional copy, Publishers Development Corporation in sales and marketing, and Children's Activities magazine as circulation promotions manager, had planned out the elements of his own magazine that he would call Stag Party. He formed HMH Publishing Corporation and recruited his friend Eldon Sellers to find investors. Hefner eventually raised just over $8,000, including from his brother and mother. However, the publisher of an unrelated men's adventure magazine, Stag, contacted Hefner and informed him it would file suit to protect their trademark if he were to launch his magazine with that name. There was pressure on Hefner to therefore change the name from Stag Party in order to avoid the lawsuit, and together with his wife Millie and Sellers, who met to seek a new name, the brand name, Top Hat, Gentleman, Sir, Satyr, Pan and Bachelor were all brought up as suggestions before sellers suggested Playboy. Once Hefner heard Playboy, his senses tingled as he felt he had gotten the perfect name. The first issue, in December 1953, was undated, as Hefner was unsure there would be a second. He produced it in his Hyde Park kitchen. The first centerfold was Marilyn Monroe, although the picture used originally was taken for a calendar rather than for Playboy. Hefner chose what he deemed the sexiest image, a previously unused nude study of Monroe stretched with an upraised arm on a red velvet background with closed eyes and mouth open. The heavy promotion centered around Monroe's nudity on the already famous calendar, together with the teasers and marketing, made the new Playboy magazine a success. The first issue sold out in weeks. Known circulation was $53,991. The cover price was 50 cents. Copies of the first issue in mint to near mint condition sold for over $5,000 in 2002. The novel Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury was published in 1953 and serialized in the March, April, and May 1954 issues of Playboy. An urban legend started about Hefner and the Playmate of the Month because of markings on the front covers of the magazine. From 1955 to 1979, the P in Playboy had stars printed in or around the letter. Urban legends stated that this was either a rating that Hefner gave to the Playmate according to how attractive she was, the number of times that Hefner had slept with her, or how good she was in bed. In actuality, stars between 0 and 12 indicated the domestic or international advertising region for that printing. By publishing photographs of nude women and promoting the concept of sex as recreation, the magazine became a much-discussed phenomenon of American popular culture. Annual sales of Playboy grew from $4 million in 1960 to about $175 million at the end of the 1970s, when it had a circulation of about 6 million and ranked among the top 10 magazines in the United States. Meanwhile, from 1960 to 1986, Hefner's company operated the Playboy Club chain of nightclubs. By the late 1970s, Playboy employed about 4,000 people around the country. In 1982, Christy Hefner, the 29-year-old daughter of the founder, took charge of the company, which was moving into television and video products. By the end of the century, annual revenues stood at about $350 million, and Playboy employed about 500 people in the Chicago area. Playboy's revenues and circulation fell in the early 2000s as it faced tough competition from a series of new so-called lad mags, such as Maxim and FHM. It soon began to offset these losses, however, by emulating the graphics and photograph-heavy pages of its new competitors and expanding into the internet market with Playboy.com. From the 1950s to the early 70s, Playboy's circulation, including subscription and newsstand sales and advertising revenues, steadily increased, reaching a high point of 7.2 million copies sold in November 1972 and average sales of 5.6 million copies per issue in 1975. Although most famous for its photo spreads, Playboy also published general articles and fiction, both of which were frequently of high quality. Its interviews with celebrities and other newsworthy persons won wide attention. The periodical emphasized what it considered progressive sexual views. However, many of the so-called playmates laid accusations on Hefner as being a sex addict, molesting teens, and forcing himself on his girlfriends. The whole concept of the Playboy became marred with allegations on obscene acts that Hefner organized with his bunnies. It is worthwhile knowing that the Playboy philosophy, articulated by Hefner himself in the pages of the magazine, advocated complete personal freedom for both men and women in all things, including sex. Through its support of that belief and its popularization of the notion that viewing sexually suggestive photography of women was not only acceptable but healthy, it contributed to the so-called sexual revolution in the United States in the 1960s, marked by greatly more permissive attitudes towards sexual interest and activity than had been prevalent in earlier generations. The magazine's format and approach were widely imitated. In the 1980s, however, the magazine's readership declined steeply, partly because the sexual revolution it continued to advocate had largely been won, rendering its image less daring and less provocative, and partly because it faced new competition from racier publications such as Penthouse, which featured cruder and more explicit nude photography. Under the leadership of Hefner's daughter, Hugh Hefner, who was appointed president of the parent company in 1982 and served as chief executive officer from 1988 to 2009. Even though her father remained editor-in-chief, the magazine was recast as an advocate of First Amendment freedoms and a defender of progressive positions on a variety of social issues. By the end of the decade, Playboy's circulation had stabilized at about 3.4 million. The company established a website, Playboy.com, in 1994, which was an immediate success. In the 2000s, however, circulation of the print magazine dropped again, falling to less than 1 million by 2015. Also that year, citing the wide availability of pornography on the internet, the company announced that Playboy would no longer feature photos of nude women, but it reversed that decision in 2017. Fast forward to present times, the Playboy legacy lives on, but it is a mere shadow of what it was in the 50s. Widespread adult content has beat it out of competition, and what is left is but memories which many people working for Playboy do not want to associate with Hefner for the obscenity attached to his persona. That brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and please drop your comments down below concerning your thoughts on Playboy.